Hey guys, Brian here with Thumper Fab. Today I'm going to show you how to install our front forward arms on your Can-Am Commander. First thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and lift up your Commander, take the wheels off, and get ready for disassembly. Alright, the first thing you're going to do is take a 10mm wrench or socket and remove this brake line clamp, and a 15mm and remove your brake caliper and hang it up out of the way. When I hang your brake caliper out of the way, to make sure you have clear and plenty of room for installation. Next, you're going to use your dikes or needle nose pliers to remove the cotter pin that goes through the tie rod mount bolt, and you'll remove the tie rod from the knuckle and slide it out of the way. Next, you're going to use an 18mm socket and 18mm wrench to unconnect your sway bar end link from the arm. It's allowed to pivot down. You may need to use a screwdriver, push the bolt out of the sway bar end link so it doesn't get bound up when you're pulling it away from the arm. Next, you'll want to unhook your shock from the upper control arm using an 18mm socket and an 18mm wrench. Next, you're going to use your needle nose pliers to remove the cotter pin that fastens your upper ball joint to the knuckle. Then you'll use an 18mm wrench to remove the nut, and a dead blow hammer slightly tap here while pulling up on the arm, and the ball joint will slide out of the knuckle. So you have your knuckle free from your factory control arms. You'll use an 18mm socket and 18mm wrench to remove your mounting bolts on both the upper and lower control arms and remove them from the unit. So with your factory arms removed, the first step in installing your Thumper Fab box forward A-arms is starting with the lower arm. You replace it into the frame, and then fasten the lower ball joint to the knuckle. So you use all your factory hardware to fasten the arm to the frame and also to the knuckle. You'll need an 18mm socket and wrench, fasten the arm to the frame, and a 15mm socket and wrench for your factory cross bolt for the lower ball joint. When installing your forward A-arms, don't tighten any hardware until you have all bolts in their locations and ready to go. Next, you'll install your upper control arm using your OEM hardware, an 18mm socket and a wrench. Next, you're going to fasten the upper ball joint to the knuckle using the provided nut and washer and 19mm wrench. Next, you're going to fasten your shock to your upper control arm using your OEM hardware with an 18mm socket and 18mm wrench. After you fasten your shock to your upper control arm, you use the OEM hardware to fasten your sway bar end link to the upper control arm, feeding the bolt through from the back to the front. You'll tighten that up with an 18mm socket and 18mm wrench. Next, you're going to fasten your tie rod to your knuckle using the factory hardware, a 15mm socket, and 15mm wrench. After you fasten the tie rod to the knuckle and install the cotter pin under the nylon lock nut, you can go through and tighten all remaining hardware. After you've fully tightened your upper ball joint and your tie rod mounting bolt, you're going to want to go ahead and put a cotter pin through it and fold it over tight, so there's no chance of the nut coming off the bolt. So at any point the nut starts to back off the bolt. Once you've tightened both your upper ball joint and your tie rod mounting bolt, you're going to want to use a cotter pin and slide it through the shank of the bolt and fold it around the threads so that if the nut backs off, there's no chance of the nut fully leaving the shank of the bolt. Next, you're going to use your factory hardware, fasten your brake caliper back to the knuckle, and then you'll use zip ties to fasten the brake line on the underside of the front upper control arm. And pull it up snug, make sure there's no rubbing or contact areas anywhere near the sway bar bracket or hanging too close to the axle. Once you have your brake line securely fastened to the underside of the front arm, you can go ahead and snip off the excess for a cleaner look. So depending on your wheel and tire combination, if you have any issues with contact over to the arm or the fenders, Thumper Fab has provided you with steering stops that you'll put on the worm shaft. You'll pull the boot back on the steering rack, install it over the shafts. This isn't needed for all applications. Depending on your wheel offset, it may be needed to fight any rubbing issues. Once you're done with that, you put the tires back on, lower the vehicle to the ground, set the tow, and you're ready to hit the trails.